OPM's retirement claims backlog grew by 40% in November, and it went up even more than that the month prior. So, what's going on? It's unusual to see the retirement claims backlog spike this much this time of year. Normally, only see that in January when you have a large number of federal employees retiring at the end of the year. Let's take a look at the numbers. Office of Personnel Management Director Scott Cooper said in an interview a few months ago that he was projecting about 300,000 federal employees to leave federal service by the end of the year. And I think we're starting to see the results of the Trump administration's efforts to cut the total size of the federal workforce showing up in these figures in the total inventory of retirement claims at the Office of Personnel Management in terms of the number of claims coming in. OPM's processing a lot of them too. It's just that they're coming in faster than the agency can handle. And so that's what's pushing the backlog higher. But Cooper had projected that about 300,000 federal employees would leave by the end of the year, as I said, and that would shrink the total size of the federal workforce from about 2.4 million down to 2.1 million. And the deferred resignation program is a big driver of all of this. You'll remember that back in January, the Trump administration put that offer on the table. It was basically a buyout offer for federal employees to leave their jobs and keep getting their pay and benefits through the end of the fiscal year, excuse me, which was the end of September. Now that September's come and gone, we're starting to see those figures really hit the total retirement claims inventory. Also of interest in the November data on the retirement stats that OPM has put out, they've started sharing numbers on the digital retirement claims processing. And this ties into the online retirement application, or ORA for short, that OPM launched over the summer. In July, the agency started requiring all retirement applications to now be digital. And they've started publishing figures on the number of claims they've had come in, the number they process, how long it's taking. So it's interesting to look at those figures. I've got a table here I'll put up on the screen that goes into some details. These are figures OPM released. I added in, I broke out the number of paper claims just so it'd make it more clear. So you see that in October, there were 6,176 digital claims that came in versus 14,168 of paper. That's retirement claims under the old system. That number went up even higher in November on the digital 7833. Paper went up as well, but the total claims coming in November were quite a bit higher than in October, as you can see. The big statistic here on the digital claims processing versus the paper on the old system, OPM said that the digital claims in November were processed in 38 days on average versus 94 days for the paper. So it's nearly 3 times longer for the paper claims. That's a huge difference, obviously. And you can see in the figures here that it is generally faster for OPM to process the digital claims. It'll be interesting to see if that trend continues and how this goes in the future, because so far OPM has only shared these 2 months worth of data. Obviously, the digital system is new. There's not going to be a lot to share at this point, but I'll be curious to see going forward what kind of impact it has on the processing times. Again, so far, the figures are encouraging, and that would be helpful for federal employees because that means they can start getting their full annuity payments more quickly if the process is sped up. And taking a look at the total inventory numbers here, as I said, November really saw a big increase. The total backlog went up 40% over October. It now stands at 48,396 total retirement claims outstanding. And in these figures, I'll put up on the screen here, I did an analysis of November over the last few years. November 2025, I mean, there's no comparison. It's far and away ahead of the month of November for the last several years. And again, I think that's being driven by the number of federal employees leaving, probably largely due to the deferred resignation program. The October backlog had a big increase as well. It stood at 34,587 total retirement claims, and that was a 47% increase over September. But as high as the total backlog is now at just shy of 50,000. That's not an all-time record. It's the highest it's been since 2012, but it has in 2012 it actually topped 60,000. So we're not into all-time record territory yet, but January is normally the busiest time of year for OPM in terms of having retirements come in because most federal employees tend to retire at the end of a calendar year. So presumably January is going to be quite busy as well. So it will be interesting to see how things fare. With any luck, OPM will see some reprieve in December. Maybe they'll be able to process more retirements during the month of December, if not as many come in. And if the pace of processing the digital claims in particular, if that continues to accelerate, that would certainly help the process as well, and hopefully bring the total inventory down somewhat in advance of January. Because again, typically January is just the biggest month of the year. Plus, since more people have been leaving the government than usual because of the efforts to reduce the size of the workforce, I'm expecting January to be pretty big, maybe bigger than it usually is. I'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I've written an article on this on the fedsmith.com website that goes into some more detail. I just wanted to kind of give you the high level overview here on the numbers in this video, but I'll leave a link to that in the description, so be sure to check it out. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.